Hi everyone, Ravi this side. Welcome to Engineering Adda. Today in this video, we are going to discuss about the environment variable, what it is, and why one should use it out, how we can use it. Everything we are going to discuss in this video about the environment variable. So first of all, we are going to discuss what is environment variable or what are environment variables, and then we are going to see what are its benefit, why one should use it out, and then later on we'll practically create one Spring Boot application, and then there we'll try to see how we can use it. So let's get started, and I will go to the next slide to discuss more about the environment variable. So what are environment variables? The definition is they are nothing but they are the key value pairs used to store configuration setting. So what is configuration setting? So let me try to brief you about the configuration setting with an example. Let's say you have developed one Spring Boot application and you want your application to be connected to the database. In that case, you have to provide the DB URLs, DB credentials like username and the password in your application to get it connected with your DB. These are called as configuration settings and they come in a pair. Okay, so we have a pair of key value and that is used to connect your application to the DB, and they are called the configuration settings. In order to make your application up and running, you need a lot of configuration to be done, right? And those configurations comes into the key value pairs, and these key value pairs are called the environment variables. Okay, so here is the example. Like let's say you want to connect your application to the DB, you have to provide the DB URLs. The key would be DB_URL, and then the value would be the DB URL, like JDBC MySQL localhost 3306, and let's say your DB name. Similarly, your application need to be connected to some third-party APIs. Then you have to provide the API key in order to access that API. So you can use this API key as a key, and then the value of that API key as a value. And you have to provide this configuration setting in your application.properties file, let's say. So these are the environment variables. Okay, these are accessibly, like these are you can access it dynamically during the runtime. Okay, so this is about the environment variable. Environment variables are nothing but they are the key value pairs used to store the configuration setting. Okay, as simple as that. And you can always have an example of DB connection, where you have to provide the DB URLs and the credentials of the DB in order to connect it with the DB. Now go to the next slide. Why one should use the environment variables? So they help us in decouple configuration from the code. So when you are going to use the environment variables for the configuration setting, it decouples the configuration from your code. You're not going to hard code these values in your classes or in your methods. So you're just going to separate your configuration from your code. It simplifies update without redeploying. So let's say you have configured your DB URLs, okay, through the environment variables. Now your DB URL got changed, so you don't have to make any change in your codes. It is decoupled from the code, and you can simply make the changes in it. You can update your credentials in the configuration settings, and then you are good to go. Okay, so this is one of the example, or you can say one of the benefit of using the environment variables. It decouples the code from the configuration. Now, environment specific settings. So let's say you want to deploy your application to the different environment like dev, test, and prod. So for the dev, test, and prod, you have different DB credentials. Okay, so you don't have to update your code for it. You can have the different settings, and you can pass those different DB credentials for dev, test, and prod in your specific settings. Okay, and then that will work. So that is the second benefit of it. Now the third one is security. It protects sensitive data like credentials. Scalability, ideal for cloud native and containerized environments. And in the CI/CD integration, it also helps inject the configuration during the build or deployment. So these are some of the benefit of using the environment variable, and this is why one should use the environment variable. Going to the next slide, you can see that environment variable in Spring Boot. This is how you can directly, like, you can access your environment variables. Either you can use @value annotations to directly access the environment variable, or you can use something like these things, where you can pass this from the environment variables in the configuration settings. I will show you everything, how we are going to set the environment variables and how we can pass it out. Everything I will show you. These are some different tools, or you can say methods what you can use to access the environment variables. Okay. Now going to the next slide. Again, I'm going to discuss about the benefit of environment variables in a Spring Boot application. Okay. So the first one is dynamic configuration. The second one is improved security, easier deployment, better maintainability, and cloud and container support. So these are some of the benefit of using the environment variables in your Spring Boot application. This come across every applications. If you're using the environment variables in your application, that means they will bring these benefits to you. Going to the next slide, these are the best practices that you can use. So if you want to secure your sensitive data, you can use the environment variables and store your values in the vault. You can avoid the hard coding defaults. Okay. Document required variables for easy onboarding. Okay. Validate at startup to avoid the runtime errors. So these things you can follow in order to have your clear and security proofed values. Now go to the next slide. In the summary, we can say that environment variables decouple configuration from the code, is essential for scalable, secure, and portable apps, and follow the best practices for security and maintainability. So this is about the environment variables basic. Like we have discussed why one should use the environment variables and what are environment variables, what are its benefit, everything we have discussed now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Spring Boot application, and there I will show you how you can use it out. So just come out of this slide and I will go to the IntelliJ. Here I will create one Spring Boot application. So you can see I'm using the IntelliJ Ultimate version. So directly I can come here to the file, new, and here itself, file, new project. Here itself I can find the option of Spring Boot. If you are not using the Spring Ultimate version, what you can do is you can go to the Spring IO website, and there itself it will open the same page and you can create your application there. Once you will create that out, you have to download it in the zip format and then open it in the IDE that you are using. So just select the Maven. Let's say here I'm providing the name as env variable. Okay, example, something like that. And select next. Then I'm just going to use the Lombok and the web as a basic starter dependency. Just create it and wait for a few seconds to get it up and running. So it will take few seconds of your time to download the dependency and do the necessary configuration for you, and then you can start using it out. So just load the Maven project and close this one. We are good. It is, you can see that it's checking for JDK updates and some other configuration it will do. It will download the starter dependency that we have added, and then we can start doing our code here. So we are good, I think. What I can do is I can go to the source, go to the main Java, and here you can see we have the main class. You can directly come here and run it out. So just run this. Wait for a few seconds. It will take 1-2 seconds, or you can say 5 seconds for your application to be up. You can see that our application is going up, and it is up on the port number 8080. You can see that, right? We don't have any APIs here, so we cannot test anything, but we don't need the API to see how the environment variables works. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one environment variables and then pass it value from the environment variables, and then we'll try to print it out in our application in this class itself. So just go to the resources, and here you can find this application.properties file. Here you can see that we have one configuration which says Spring application name, and it is the name of application that we created. Similarly, what you can do is you can provide your DB credentials here if you want to connect your application to the database. So how we are going to do those things, I'm just going to show you. So I'm not going to provide the DB and all those things. I'm just simply going to create a custom configuration, and then I will pass its value from the environment variable. So just let me show you. So let's say custom dot API key, something like that, custom dot API dot key, and here let's say the API key is ABC123, something like that. So here what we are doing is we are hard coding, or we are directly passing the value from in the application.properties file itself of the custom API key. You can see that, right? But this is not the right way. This is not the right way. You have to pass it from the environment variables. That I will show you how you can do that. But as of now, I'm just passing it from here. Now go to your main class, and here I'm going to use the post construct, and then I'm just going to create one, let's say public void init one method, and here I'm just going to simply print out what the key that we have configured here. Okay, so go to this class. How you can access that key? There is a annotation called value. There are different ways that you can use, but I'm going to use the annotation value, and here itself value what is key name. So we go here, this is the key name, so just copy this out, go to this again and paste it here. Now okay, we are making some mistake. Okay, so we are using this from the Lombok. This is not the one, just import it from the Spring, and we are good. So what we are doing is we are fetching the value of this key inside this class using @value annotation. We have this variables in which we have the value of this key, which is key itself. Now I'm just going to print this out inside this init. So when our application will be up and running, first it will call this method, and then it will print out the key. Okay, so just here you can also add something like the key is okay. Now run this application, and in the console you can see this out. So our application is up, and here you can see that in the console it is printing the keys, and the key that we have passed in the application.properties file, it is coming as it is, which is ABC123. You can see that it is the value. Now this is not the right way. Let's say you have a API key and you don't want to expose it in your application.properties file. Then you don't need to pass it from, like, you don't need to hard code it here. You can pass it through the environment variables, and that is what we are going to see here, how we can do that. So for that, what you can do is you can create one key here. Let's say API underscore key, and you can use this key to pass your value as an environment variable to this custom.api.key. Okay, so here you can come to this application, you can go to the edit configuration, and here you can see the modify option button. In the operating system, you will find this environment variables. So just click on it, and you can click on this one, edit environment variables, and here you can find that environment variables tab is opened, and you can see user environment variables. So you can click on this plus icon, and here you can provide the key, and the value. So the value, let's say if you want to use the value as ABC123, you can provide it. Now apply it and OK. Now how it will work? You can see that at the place of value where we are hard coding the value, we have created one key. That key we are using in the environment variable and passing the value. You can see that, right? So this is how you can pass your value without exposing it in your application.properties file. Okay. Now run your application, and again you will find that the value would be printed here. Even we have removed the hard coded value. You can see that. Now let me try to make some changes in the value so that you will get the clear idea. So here you can see, let's say if you want it out, edit it, let's say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that I have added. Just click OK, apply, and then OK. Now run this out. Again in the console you will find those things. You can see that your key is updated. Similarly, let's say you have configured so many things in your application.property file and you have not hard coded it, right? If you have passing the value through the environment variable, so that in that case what you have to do is you have to simply come here to the edit configuration in your environment variables and change the value. You don't have to make any changes in your hard code value, right? If you have hard coded it out, you have to again change these things, and then that will reflect after that. In this case, you don't have to make any change in your code base. In this case, you only have to make the changes in your configuration settings, right? And that is why it is recommended. Similarly, let's say if you want to deploy your application throughout different environments, in that case, let's say here for the dev, the API key is this, but for test, the API key is different, and for prod, the API key is different. Then in that case, you don't have to change the API key in your application.properties file, or you don't have to create a different application.properties file for each environment. What you can do is you can directly come here to the edit configuration, and here itself you can pass those values, and you can select the profiles. Like let's say if you want to select the E1, you can provide that E1 or E2, something like that. So this is a very much secure, and it is also recommended for the decoupling of the code as well. So this is how you can use the environment variable in your applications, and these are the benefit of it. This is about the video, guys. If you like the video, please hit the like button and please subscribe the channel for more such content. Thanks.